Hello BookTube. I hope you all had a fabulous Christmas. Favorite foods, washed down with good books, and if not, good wine, because we're all old enough here, aren't we? Anyway, I'm not going to spend too much time on Waffle because Waffle seems to just randomly fall in anywhere. But I'm going to get on and review some books. I think I have about 8 or 9 here for you for today. It's been another while, at least it's not 30 something. It's only 2 weeks. So let me get a move on. I am ordering these roughly from least favorite to most, and let's just get started. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Angel's Games by Carlos Ruiz Zafon, who I still can't say with that lovely sound without sounding like I'm choking on a fur ball. But anyway, this one was my least favorite. Oddly enough, that is purely and utterly plot related. Let me get to the basics though. In this story you meet a guy by the name of David Martin, and he is a writer. He basically is writing under a pseudonym, crime thrillers. They sound more like, I think my grandfather would have called them penny dreadfuls. And his family and friends, well, family, there's no family, his friends basically feel that he is prostituting himself off. And then he gets an offer from a guy to write a book. And all hell breaks loose. Pretty literally. Anyway, so the writing in this is fabulous. I mean, there is no way that anybody can say that this guy cannot put words on a page. They are beautiful. They are atmospheric. He captures Barcelona, Spain in the early 1900s brilliantly, from what I can gather, because I felt like I was there. And he's got some little wise quips in it, etc. But unfortunately, the plot and I just did not necessarily agree with one another. However, I'm not going to say that this is not a book for everyone. I think that folks who generally like a very dark and twisted thing might enjoy this. Usually I would put myself in that category too, but maybe it's just the mood. I was disappointed. Let's just leave it at that. The next one I'm going to talk about I did as an audiobook because I was painting walls, which meant washing walls, and there is nobody that you would rather have with you when you've got that much housework to do of that type than Jack Reacher. As they describe him in one of the books, 6'5", built like a brick poop house, and in one book they describe him as looking like a condom filled with marbles. I hope we're all old enough to drink here. Anyway, so I wanted Jack in real life, but I settled for him in the audio version. And this case, I think it's number 20. It's Make Me. The series is written by Lee Child, and in this story you have Jack, who is arriving in a town called Mother's Rest. He's just curious because he wants to know where its name came from, and he bumps into a woman who mistakes him for somebody else because of his massive stature, and he discovers that she is a private investigator and her partner is missing, and that's how the story starts. Look, I have mixed feelings over Jack Reacher. I enjoy Jack Reacher as a character in a way. I enjoy the plots in a way. They are a bit long-winded, but you know what, it keeps you entertained. But I don't like the writing style. He is so repetitive, and it's not just in one book, it's throughout all 20. He has choice phrases that keep going in there, and he is so repetitive himself. You know, like he will repeat the same line over and over, just so that you know that something is long and hard, and no, it's not that. And anyway, so, you know, I would, every Lee Child book is the same. Well, Jack Reacher book is the same. Jack arrives somewhere, generally through hitchhiking. He will find a female. He will generally hook it up with a female. He will discover a crime that is going on or something that is suspicious. At some point early within the first 10 chapters, a group of guys, usually about 6, will try and take him on, and he will tell them that they're outnumbered. And yeah, he will then go on and solve the crime, and generally put paid to the bad guy. Mortally paid to the bad guy, as in there are skeletons. But you know, it's the advantage, I suppose. If you pick up a Jack Reacher book, you know exactly what you're going to get. It's also the disadvantage. You pick up a Jack Reacher book, there's no surprises. You know exactly what you're going to get. So I suppose it depends on your mood. As I said, I wanted somebody 6'5" and built like a brick poop house so that they could help me paint and rearrange furniture. I just had to settle for the fictional version. The next one I'm going to talk about is Moskva by Jack Grimwood. Now, this one is a Russian crime thriller, although Jack Grimwood himself is not Russian, but the story is set in Russia, and it starts off with a shaved, frozen body found in the snow. And no, it wasn't frozen because of the snow, it was frozen beforehand. It had also been desanguinated. I hope I said that right. I've had a bit of wine. And yeah, so our hero Tom has to, well, actually, after that body is discovered a couple of days later, the daughter of the British embassy, consulate, ambassador. Oh, where's my brain gone? Anyway, she goes missing. She's only 15. Anyway, Tom is asked to go and find her. And the story itself is quite involved. It's quite a complex plot. But I can't say that I love this either. I felt that they kind of bashed me over the head quite a few times there to let me know just how much Tom's own personal life trauma was making him suffer. And, you know, I can handle being told. I would prefer being shown. And being bashed over the head about it just kind of didn't quite appeal to me. The story was, however, the last third is, maybe the last quarter is quite exciting. So there was that to it in its favour. But a lot of the time you're wondering what the hell was going on. Now, I must confess that I don't really know much about this period of time because it was set in the early 1980s, and I've never really thought of researching history in the early 1980s because I was like 2. So if I was alive, it's not really history, is it? So I'm not exactly 100% sure, but from what I've read from other people's reviews and things like that, it's apparently quite a realistic portrayal of a rather complicated and uncertain time in Russia. So I will give it credit for that, even though I'm not 100% sure. So, I don't know, fans of Russian lit might, I don't know. I'd love to hear somebody else's opinion on it because I must admit I'm not 100% sure on what the setting would have been like. But I will give you one thing, atmosphere, even though it's blooming middle of summer here, I felt cold reading this. So, kudos to that. The next one I'm going to talk about is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And I thought that I was going to absolutely love this, especially that the first half. I really devoured it. I inhaled it, disappeared. I loved the idea of this little girl who was completely and utterly unloved and neglected in India, very wealthy family, and then her parents die of cholera and she is left alone and she is sent off to her uncle in England at Misselthwaite Manor. And there she discovers that there is a secret garden that he is locked off because his wife passed away and it was her favorite garden. So of course she has to go and find it. And that part I absolutely loved. I loved the idea of little kids going out gardening, playing outside. I can see that this was written as part encouragement for that to happen. And so yeah, that part I really enjoyed. I loved the descriptions, I loved the flowers, I loved what my imagination threw out at me. And then the second part arrived, and this is going to start sounding repetitive, but my objection with this was the repetition. Because if I had to hear one more time about how glowing and happy and healthy and fatter these children looked, I would have thrown a brick through something because it just got really annoying. And then it also kind of felt like it had a bit of a religious swing on it, and I was like, oh, I've had enough of that kind of indoctrination in my life, thank you very much. So unfortunately the second half of the book lost me a bit, but I do think that for a kid maybe they wouldn't feel that way, and maybe it might be encouragement to get them away from the PlayStation or Xbox and outside into some fresh air. So I'm not necessarily ditching this book. I think it's got benefits. It's got benefits. There's good indoctrination as well. Go and play outside, get some fresh air and sunshine, and while you're at it, pull out some reeds. So I don't know, but yeah, mixed feelings once again. Loved the first half, second half a bit iffy. Then I did, oh, okay, well not then, it's going in order of preference. So next up was Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, and the only thing I knew about this going into this was what I had seen, that iconic picture of this big guy being strapped down by these tiny little people with ropes and tent pegs, and that was all I knew going into this. I think I probably would have got more out of it if I'd known that this was actually a bit more of a philosophy on politics and science and morals and ethics and things like that. But you know, especially part 1, 2, and 4, I loved. Well, I enjoyed. Part 3, I felt was a bit too fragmented. It's how to explain the plot of this. Basically, he's a sailor with the worst damn luck going, because every time he goes somewhere, he gets shipwrecked, marooned, stranded, something, at a place where something really strange is going on. Personally, I think he probably put too many strange mushrooms in his soup. But anyway, and through meeting all these different people, he comes to light with discussing the theories and whatnot of politics, and seeing what is happening there and the faults, and then talking about what was happening at home. And what was interesting is that how in the beginning he's describing the English system as being the ideal, the perfect, and by the time he's at the end, he doesn't even want to associate himself with humans. And I thought it was interesting, except for maybe part 3, which might be more interesting if I was reading it for philosophy and not for a novel. Anyway, Gulliver. Next up. Okay, so this looks like it was massive. I didn't read the whole thing because this is a trilogy. And being the Discworld, I had read the first 2 books in this a previous occasion, and I only had the Hogfather left. And I did not know that this was a Christmas story. And it turned out it was. Talk about good timing. So I read the Hogfather. I'm going to put this down because this thing's a blooming brick. Appreciate the artwork because it's fabulous. But anyway, so the story of the Hogfather, well, in the Hogfather, is that somebody has put a hit out on the Hogfather, who happens to be Father Christmas, just saying. But anyway, and yeah, so something happens to the Hogfather, and the most unlikely character in the world, or in the Discworld at least, replaces him. And you get to spend some time with Death's granddaughter, Susan, and she's a governess, and this is why I love Terry Pratchett. You know, I might not love everything about the books. I might, you know, I can't read one straight after another, but he has lines that you just gotta love. And the one that I loved about Susan, I actually wrote it down for this. It says, getting an education was a bit like a communicable sexual disease. It made you unsuitable for a lot of jobs, and then you had the urge to pass it on. As a teacher, I so got that. But anyway, so this is really a story that's exploring our need for belief in things that are not real. And it's interesting that what they're talking about is not actually the Hogfather or Father Christmas. It's things like justice and mercy, and it's scary, but it's true, because we kind of do feel that we need to believe in these concepts that don't really exist. But as a whole, it was just brilliant. I had such a good giggle reading that one, and it's now my favorite Christmas book. I didn't have a previous favorite Christmas book, but it's now my favorite Christmas book, and it's going to take a lot, I think, to get that one off my list. And then, yeah, the next 2 I could probably discuss at the same time, because voila, it's C.J. Sansom. But I'm going to kind of do them in a bit of order. So here you've got Revelation. This is the 4th book in the series, and in this one, Matthew Shardlake has to come up against a serial killer, which was pretty interesting. And what I really liked with this one, besides the story and everything else, is that you're looking at mental health issues and how they were dealt with in these days. One thing that he does in this series is he does look at problems that we still have today, like mental health issues, corruption, etc. And corruption more in this one, although mental health too. And you know, you can see that things haven't really changed. Well, the treatment of mental health issues, thank mercy, has changed. But I just believe in mercy there. But anyway, corruption is still swept under the carpet. So in Revelation, Matthew's friend is murdered quite brutally, and yeah, it turns out that there's a serial killer involved, and yeah, you've got in the historic side, you've got Henry VIII, who's now interested in Catherine Parr, and yeah, so that gets quite interesting. And then in this one, Heartstone, Matthew is now working for Catherine Parr, and he has to go and sort out an issue with the wards, which was something that did happen. Apparently, it was another way in which the king or monarchy managed to get more money from people. The selling of wards, who are basically orphans of better to do parents, and people would buy their wardship and, you know, benefit, although they weren't supposed to, from it, but obviously they did. It was corrupt. And you're also dealing with the character that you met in Revelation and what happened with that character. But what really made this really, really interesting, I don't know much about, I'm going to put this down, this one's also a brick. I don't know much about British history because, well, let's just put it this way, the apartheid Afrikaans government was not really going to be putting that on the history set work list, I don't think, especially in a good light. Or I don't know if this would be considered a good light. Yeah, probably not. But anyway, we didn't do any of that. We did the Great Trek over and over and over again. And but anyway, getting back to the point. So they mentioned something, and I went and Googled it because I want to know what it looked like and see what happened. And I realized what was going to happen in the book. Did that add to the suspense, man? Wow. I was like telling Matthew, don't go there, don't. And he wouldn't listen. He just was not, he was going to go and be there. So, yeah, I guessed what was going to happen. But one thing with these stories is that they are so atmospheric, and at the same time, they are so accurate to the time. It's brilliant that I can actually go and Google things and see pictures and paintings and, you know, information of what happened, etc., that coincides with what Sansom is writing. So I really enjoy that. And I am looking forward to getting my hands on Lamentation. I have ordered it, and when the delivery guys get back from their holiday, and it arrives at my favoritist bookshop ever, I will go pick it up and read it. Anyway, I am currently reading Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I thought I would end the year on a good note. And the other one that I'm going to start reading as soon as I'm done with that is The House of Leaves by Danielewski, which was the present that Robin bought me when she said, thank you for letting me stay. And I've been putting it off until I was on holiday so that I wouldn't have a ton of other things to do and I wouldn't have to worry about going to bed early to get up for work. Although, new job, I can sleep in an extra hour. That's going to be amazing. So, yeah. But that's all my plans for now. I am hopefully going to film at least one more video before the end of the year, so I'm not going to say Happy New Year yet. And I wish you all the best. Happy reading. Bye.